It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Keep count. Hey, welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
Jake.
And this week we have country singer-songwriter. Well, it's, more than just country, just a full-on like rock, alternative rock.
He's a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll.
He is the Osmonds and Excelsies. That means in the highest, in the greatest for all you Latin.
Yeah. I got it.
I took Latin in high school.
Oh.
I was raised Catholic.
Nice.
And also I took Latin in high school.
There you go. Well, anyway, I don't know if he took Latin in high school, but Brian Whelan is on the show. You can check out his first two albums, Decider and Sugarland, out on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play. It's all out there. And check out his website, brianwhelanmusic.com. The website is in the episode description. See when he's playing. Maybe pick some stuff up from his shop. Anyway, let's let him talk about his music. And joining us this week, we have Brian Whelan, singer-songwriter, born and bred in Seattle, based out of Los Angeles, but he kind of has a Bakersfield sound. Though kind of, Jake, would you say a little more kind of like alt rock, like 90s alt rockish with that, certainly with that first record?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Right on. You can check out his stuff, see tour dates, and buy music and merch from his website, brianwhelanmusic.com. The link is in our episode description. And Brian, thanks for coming on the show.
Guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and thanks for the kind words.
Yeah, no
Anytime we can talk about 90s alternative rock, that's fine with me. I'll be happy about that.
Right on. Okay, so following that thread, so with this first record, Decider, you've got Decider, you've got Sugarland, but Decider really more so, you've kind of got a little social distortion, a lot of that. Almost there's a track on there, Brand New Love Song, that sounds very much kind of in the kind of Gin Blossoms-esque vein. Was that?
Oh, yeah.
Were those very much kind of influences on that entire album's sound?
That's just the, I went to high school, from 96 until 2000, and it was only in 93, maybe 94, that I started listening to any like contemporary music really of any kind, because I grew up listening to a lot of older music.
Mm-hmm. When you say older, do you mean like Buck Owens, or do you mean like the band?
No, well, like in my house, my parents had a good record collection, but it's like the usual kind of suspects for a lot of they're baby boomers, so it's a lot of 60s. It's the Beatles, the Stones, the Beach Boys, Bob Dylan, and then my dad kind of got me interested in helped to get me interested in 50s rock, so Chuck Berry and Elvis and Buddy Holly, and that 50s music really has always kind of been my favorite thing, and as a young kid, it just kind of took over my life, and so I was living in Seattle, only vaguely aware of this band called Nirvana that was just, exploding everywhere. And I was 10, 11, 12, so I wasn't, going to shows or anything anyway, but I was not even aware of it until Kurt Cobain, committed suicide, and it was a, bigger story. But, and then of course I went back and got into that, and by the time I started driving and listening to the radio, I see the mid 90s and late 90s as a pretty fruitful time for rock music, especially stuff that was getting played on the radio. Mm-hmm. I still listen to a lot of those bands, and Gin Blossoms is a great example.
Oh yeah,
that song, Brand New Love Song, which is actually written by my friend Mike Stinson. Was kind of we were trying to give it a little bit of like a Birds treatment.
Oh yeah,
that was probably the touchstone would have been the Birds. But the thing about the Gin Blossoms is they probably really love the Birds. You know what I mean? Because they have that jangle sound that they do so well, and Gin Blossoms are such good writers too, so all those songs are really good. But yeah, I love all that stuff, and it definitely it's definitely an influence then and now, and you really can hear it on Decider and some of the production choices and things like that.
With that record, you were playing all the guitar work and all the keys all done by you for both albums?
No, I didn't. No, I there's other guys playing on both records. So Sugarland, I'm playing all the guitars except for a little. I don't know if you know Keith Gaddis, but he plays a little bit on there. But it's mostly me. And that's like a band. That was Mitch Marine, who was the producer, played all the drums, and then Lee Pardini played bass, and we cut the whole thing like that. And then other people came and did some overdubs and stuff like that. And then the Decider record is way more piecemealed. And I played. There were some songs where I didn't play any guitar. And, I played drums on a few tracks, and I ended up playing a little bit of everything on Decider. That was just a little more. It ended up being more of a piecemeal record. It took a long time to make, and
well,
it was a little disjointed.
Yeah. For our listeners at home, I mean that aren't in the know, you were part of Dwight Yoakam's band for 4 years. Was Decider kind of being assembled while you were playing with Dwight?
Decider was released while I was working for Dwight. So it was pretty much done. And I think, it was done and mixed, by the time I started working for Dwight, and I kind of had it in my back pocket. And when I had a little money, I just self-released it and, did a little press run. And that was while I was working for Dwight. And then Sugarland came out. I worked on Sugarland the whole time I was with Dwight, and it was easily a 3 or 4 year. I mean, it was drawn out, But we worked on that while I was working for him, and then it came out. I kind of planned it to be released almost right after I left that band.
Was that kind of? Was that kind of an?
It was
split?
intentional.
Oh yeah. Did you? I mean, what did? Yeah, that was a completely cool split with Dwight. I mean, I assume.
Yes. No, it was amicable.
Oh,
it was totally amicable. It was, it was a really great, gig, and I loved Dwight. I loved working for him. I think he's a great guy, and he always treated me really well. It was, I just wasn't able to really play a lot of shows of my own, where I was playing my own music. Sure. And, being the lead singer, and it was something I really, really wanted to do. Before I kind of got any older, at that time, I'd been a sideman for, I don't know, almost 10 years of basically backing up other people one way or another. And I just really wanted to do my own. And it's one of those things where it's a really good job because Dwight's working all the time, but it's, all your Fridays and Saturdays are out for the whole year. And it was tough to do both. So that was the reason why I left. It was completely amicable and continues to be, thankfully.
Beats the alternative. But you were mentioning, so you had a drive to be a lead singer. Or would you consider yourself, of all the instruments you play, and you kind of, from, again, you play keys, accordion, guitar, pedal steel, drums. Of all the instruments, would you say your voice is the instrument that you're a singer first and foremost?
Yeah, I do. I do feel that way. And I play a lot of instruments. I really play keyboards and guitar well, and the other instruments I kind of, a lot of the time I'm kind of faking it. I don't consider myself like an amazing accordion player or pedal steel player or drummer. I can kind of get by in a pinch, but I could definitely consider myself a singer and a guitar player and a keyboard player, kind of in that order.
Was that kind of how they were introduced to you growing up? Like you started singing and then you picked up the guitar and all that?
Yeah, well, I always sang always sang and always wanted to sing on stage from the time I was, 5 and 6 years old. I started taking piano lessons when I was 8, and I got a guitar when I was probably 14 or something like that, 13. And so I took, I feel like a classically trained piano player for maybe 7 or 8 years or something like that.
Sure.
And kind of a self-taught, mostly a self-taught guitar player.
With the you were mentioning rockabilly stuff was a big influence on you growing up, just from your parents' records. So, starting out on the piano at the age of 8, does that mean like guys like, again, you mentioned Buddy Holly, but also Fats Domino, Little Richard, that kind of basically anybody that was signed by Chess Records in the 1950s?
Chess and Sun Records. I mean, all those guys. And when I was really young, I only knew the real kind of obvious. I wasn't well versed in rockabilly records, but I happened to be, open, just kind of open-minded, like when the La Bamba movie came out, and a few years before that, the Gary Busey, Buddy Holly movie. I mean, that's a lot of how it happened, because I just remember being a kid, because there was no Beatles on Ed Sullivan for me in like the late 80s, you know what I mean? So it was kind of like I saw, Gary Busey doing Buddy Holly, and just watched it on the screen, and was like, 6, 7 years old, going, I want to do that. And that's kind of, it's kind of what happened. And and it was cool to go back, from that movie and get the real Buddy Holly music at that age, and the same thing with Richie Valens from the Buddy Holly. I was into Eddie Cochran a lot. All those guys you mentioned, really always into Elvis. And the guy that I've gotten into more and more, as with each kind of, as I just go on, is I just love Jerry Lee Lewis. I think Jerry Lee Lewis is great. And I think Chuck Berry was a big deal for me too, especially I appreciated both of them more as I got older. Sure. I remember as a kid, Elvis and Buddy Holly and Eddie Cochran were probably more the things that I was really crazy about. And as I got older, I kind of realized that Chuck Berry, especially because of his writing, was just so great, and have certainly musically borrowed from him a great deal. Yeah,
you do kind of see that on your guitar work. It kind of has that. I think the obvious comparison would be like Bakersfield, like Buck Owens and that sort of thing. But you kind of have a bluesy approach to when you're playing those chords, that they kind of like runaway rhythm.
Yeah, that's a runaway rhythm. I like that. That's good. Yeah, I mean, that's and I'm certainly not alone in this, but I mean, yeah, it was a huge influence as a guitar player and as a writer, as a front man, a lot of things. And also Buddy Holly too. I mean, Buddy Holly for me is a big one because, like Chuck Berry, he wrote all that stuff. As much as I like Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis, they didn't write anything, and so it was the cool thing about Buddy Holly is he was wrote all his stuff and produced his own records and was doing it in like 1958 or something like that, 57, 58. And, that changed the whole, that kind of paved the way for someone like Bob Dylan,
The kind of do-it-yourself guy, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, do everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you lead the band, you play lead guitar, you do all your own arrangements, you produce your own records, you write all songs, you sing lead vocals. It just kind of proved that it could be done. No, I mean, certainly not everyone can do it, but he was obviously a pioneer in that way, and I think that's been a lasting kind of influence on me.
Well, you had kind of mentioned, songwriting and that sort of thing. With, again, the first record, Descender, lots of 90s alt-rock vibes. You're leaning a little more honky-tonk with Sugarland. It's a much more kind of deliberate record, a much more introspective record. Was that kind of a deliberate shift, or did that come from playing with Dwight at the time?
I don't know. I think that shift, I would say, to say that I think it'd be disingenuous for me to say it was intentional. Both of those records, for Decider and for Sugarland, I don't know if I was totally aware of what I was doing when I was doing it. It's like kind of like when I look back, I can definitely see, like, to me, Sugarland is a little more of a happy kind of record because I was in a really happy place. I had this, it was the beginning of a great relationship that I'm still in. It was the beginning of this great job that I had with Dwight, where I was kind of making good money for the first time in my life. And it's just, for a lot of reasons, life was just really positive at that moment. And so some of that's reflected in the writing, and what I kind of hear in retrospect is, a jubilant kind of happy record. And then Decider for me is more of like a breakup record and like a being super broke and Decider is that song is about trying to decide if, I can even hack it in this business. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, that's kind of what they look like to me when I look back on them. Just my 2 cents about it.
Decider kind of being the growing pains. I mean, you have a song straight up on that record called Sharp Teeth about getting like devoured by love.
Yeah, my friend Ross and I wrote that kind of like that was kind of like we were really into rock pile. Mm-hmm. And that song Teacher Teacher.
Oh yeah.
And so we were kind of looking to do something like that and looking for a cool way to say something that's been said hundreds and thousands of times. You know what I mean? And
to be fair, will be said thousands of times more, as long as people can't figure out what love is, and people can never figure out what love is.
Yeah, and like looking for a new way to say, to describe that feeling is kind of that's kind of the whole job. I think when you talk about writing songs, it is like just trying to find a new way to say it.
Are you one of those guys that is writing constantly, or do you have to like force yourself to sit down and write?
I definitely don't write constantly, although I'm trying to do more I'm doing more like co-writing these days, which is just something I haven't done a ton of. Mm-hmm. I've done it with some real close friends, and I started to do it a little bit more like in a more business-like Nashville kind of way, where you kind of get together with someone, maybe you've never met them, and you try to write for 3 hours. So that's a really different experience, which I like. It's
you didn't find it intimidating at all or anything?
Oh no, I mean I get so nervous. I don't know if you've ever been to see a therapist, psychotherapist, mm-hmm. But like it's the same combination of feelings where you're hopeful that something good is going to come from it, but you are like dreading the process.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I feel about co-writing with strangers, and because it can be good, and usually the worst thing that happens is you just don't have a song to use, and that's the same place you were before. You know what I mean? It isn't like anyone's going to necessarily show up and be act like a jerk or something like that.
I think the guys from Green Day, they once compared revealing lyrics and that sort of thing as like postpartum depression. Like a very personal part of you is suddenly out there in the open.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, hopefully it's out in the open and someone is listening to it and cares about it. That's what you want, like ostensibly.
Mm. With the we were mentioning kind of influences and that sort of thing, and Social Distortion and all that. You had played a tribute show to. I was kind of talking off mic earlier that your sound kind of sounded like Chuck Berry and Fats Domino, and we lost both those guys this year. And another another inspiration or another thematic link I saw was Tom Petty. And you had played a tribute show for Tom Petty with Johnny Two Bags of Social Distortion fame last month, and I was wondering how that entire show and experience, and just like your thoughts on Tom Petty in general.
Oh, thoughts on Tom Petty? Well, it was a huge loss. It came as a surprise, not unlike Prince and Bowie the year before, where you just these artists are with you from. You can just remember them from always. At least for me, it's like my brother had Full Moon Fever, and my parents had the Traveling Wilburys record, first Traveling Wilburys record with Roy Orbison, and it's like, of course, you don't realize it at the time, but I have this memory of us all being able to agree on that. And that as a family, we listened to that Traveling Wilburys record a lot. And I think that's one thing worth mentioning about Tom Petty is how universally loved he was. And, certainly in the music industry, but also by just the whole world, all these people who don't really know or care anything about the inner workings of the music industry. They just want a song that makes them feel good. And Tom Petty was able to write 40 or 50 of those songs that are going to be making people feel good, hopefully forever. So, it was just a huge loss. It was super depressing. And, I do a lot of tribute type of shows and type of kind of stuff here in LA. It's just kind of, for me, it's just part of trying to be on stage doing my thing as much as possible in a town where you can't play every week because you just can't get enough people to go. If you're playing, every week inside LA. Mm. So, one way for me to get out there more is to do a lot of these house band type stuff and tribute type stuff. And, as I've said, I will do as many Tom Petty tribute shows as I am asked to do because I just, I love it. I love all the stuff so much, and
there was,
go ahead.
Well, you were saying like for you, this 1950s stuff was your gateway into rock and roll. Tom Petty was my, I was a kid when Full Moon Fever dropped, and I remember Free Falling, and to a lesser extent like Running Down a Dream, and being played everywhere. Like that was back when MTV would actually play music videos. And, I knew George Harrison first for being in the Traveling Wilburys than I did the Beatles, which is kind of wild to say that out loud, but that's just
I don't know.
That was,
you like what you like, man.
I guess, yeah. But
and it's, Tom Petty, he's great, and it's really like one of those things where I kind of have gone up and down with some artists, and I've been a real late to the party with some artists. Certainly a lot of stuff I like are guys who did their best music before I was even born. Yeah. But Tom Petty is something that, from the time I was a kid, it was just always there. It's just like real dependable kind of, just real dependable catalog of songs. The records sound great. The songs are great. It's the only other guy I think in America. Obviously Bob Dylan is always there, but the best comparison I can think of is Fogerty for American music, as someone who just has this catalog of like 30 or 40 of these really great songs, and really great sounding like singles that really stand the test of time. The difference, of course, is that Creedence Clearwater was a band for like 2.5 years, and Tom Petty had his band for 40 years and kept it together. So it's just really, the whole thing is just very sad, and you just kind of, for me, I definitely had a feeling of he represented a lot of hopeful things for me. Mm-hmm. He was a guy who was willing to take on his record label over and over again to do it the way he wanted to do it, and had the songs, had the hits to always be able to say, "Screw you guys, I'm taking my hits and I'm going home," and they would always cave. And I just think that is so. I mean, talking about a guy who by the late '80s is getting shit from his label, his own band. And then you find out he's getting divorced. He's taking all this shit from his wife all the time.
Yeah. And
it's like, this guy is like beset on all sides and is still doing it the way he wanted to do it and writing these songs. And it really is something pretty special. And I remember sitting there the night he died just saying, it's like that's what he meant to me. That's why I'm sad right now for this person I've never met.
Yeah.
Is because, he just represented this willingness to do it your way and not cave to these kind of outside pressures.
With that singularity of vision, yeah. Which we don't, I'm trying to think guys that really in the mainstream that do it these days. There was in the 90s Dave Grohl and Billy Corgan in the 90s, absolutely.
Well, I think Dave Grohl still does it. In the 90s there were a lot of guys doing it because there was more money going around. It's harder to do it now.
Yeah.
But I think certainly Jack White and Dan Auerbach, throw those guys in there. I think Dave Grohl, definitely is just all. He's a person who does it his way. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised if he told you the same thing about Petty having that influence on him. I mean, that's one of the coolest things about Petty is how much he refused to deal with people's bullshit. Have you seen that 4-hour
Running Down a Dream?
That Bogdanovich documentary, Running Down a Dream.
Oh yeah.
That scene where he's at the Roger McGuinn session and he's just dressing down this A&R guy who's kind of out of his depth in this session.
Yeah, he's just like, this sounds like what are you doing? This sounds like shit,
Yeah, and Tom Petty just lights him up, and he's trying to be nice to Roger, but he just lights up this A&R guy, and it's like, yeah, that's why I think that's part of the reason why people liked him in the business. And it's definitely as a fan been part of why I like him so much is that whatever he's doing. He didn't get pushed into it or conned into it or whatever. It's like you can trust that if the guy's, he's playing the Super Bowl halftime show, mm-hmm. that he wanted to be there. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, very genuine.
He wanted to do it. Yeah.
You had mentioned Dave Grohl. You played with who's their lead guitarist? Chris Shiflett. You played with his
Chris Shiflett.
Yeah, you played with the Dead Peasants on a couple of shows. Were you on pedal steel for that one?
When I met him, Mick Marine was and is the drummer for Dwight Yoakam. And so that's how I met Mitch. And Mitch played for me and produced that record for the years that we had the same job. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Mitch was also kind enough to bring me in with a couple of guys who have actually been really good friends and all that, and musical compadres over the years, and Jim Lauderdale was one and Chris Shiflett was the other. So Mitch brought me in and I played steel and recorded a little bit singing with Dead Peasants, and then Chris made a solo record. So he doesn't have the Dead Peasants anymore. He made a record just called Chris Shiflett and it came out last year, and I wrote with him for that record. We wrote some of the songs together, and then I went out on that tour with him, and that was the most recent thing I've done. That was March and April of this year with Chris.
Right. Yeah, before he got pulled into the whole Foo Fighters circus again.
Oh, yeah, before he got pulled back to that pesky job he has, the biggest rock band in the world. He definitely is great. I love Chris. I can't say enough nice things about Chris. He's great to play music with, great to hang out with.
Me first and the Gimme Gimmes. Yeah, no use for a name.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is in high school, I was pretty into Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, but I didn't know I didn't know who any of the guys, because that was kind of like a band of guys from other bands.
Yeah, like the Aquabats.
And Aquabats, and I think like Lagwagon and NoFX and Know Your Surname and all this stuff. And so, but I wasn't hip to a lot of that music. I just liked them because I thought they were like they had a clever gag of doing punk versions of these, of like, FM pop songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, and so I didn't make the connection till later, and I started hanging out with Chris. But he's just, he's a great person as well. He really is a nice guy. And, it's like sometimes you meet people that are in famous rock bands and they're not nice guys, and some people are disappointed by that.
Sure.
But I will say it is really cool when someone is like, their job is to be in a band like that and to go play like a soccer stadium somewhere for thousands of people, and then they're just down to earth and cool and are a good friend and things like that. It's pretty nice.
They kind of still have that blue collar like ethic going on with their music.
Yeah, he does. Well, and that band too. It's like this. It's not as fancy as I mean, it's fancy because obviously the level that they're at, but I mean they're working.
Mm-hmm.
They're just Dave's a working guy, and he wants the band to work.
Well, he's kind of he's a hometown hero because he grew up in Northern Virginia, and Arlington being in Northern Virginia. Okay. Yeah, whenever the Foos play here, it's like a homecoming show.
Man, I'll bet.
Yeah, he did RFK after he broke his leg during the Sonic Highways tour, which is our, I guess now former soccer stadium.
Yeah.
And he played the Independence Day show with Gary Clark Jr. Buddy Guy was there. Hart, just randomly, which was awesome because it's Hart. But yeah, and they played for like 3 hours, and it was awesome. And he played most of that show from his his Iron Throne.
I've always been, especially now, like the more I learn about the actual mechanics of singing and how to do it properly and things like that, I'm super impressed and jealous of Dave because he's able to. He really scream. I mean, the screaming thing is a big part of his sound vocally, and it's like so hard for me to imagine going and doing that for 3 hours a night, like night after night, and all the talking that I'm sure he does when he's just before the show, after the show. I mean, he's just using his instrument a lot, and it seems to hold up really well. And I'm really impressed by that because it's like, I don't think it's an easy thing. Although Chris told me that he's just a tough dude, and that's all there is to it. There's no trick diet or like special warm up exercise. I mean, he's just a big old tough guy, and he can just get up there and scream that shit for 3 hours.
That's both inspiring and frustrating. I'm sure it's like, that's cool, but I can't do that.
That's really nice. That's really nice for Dave, but it doesn't help me very much because I don't have the constitution for that. You know what I mean? I'm a
but
little guy.
You've been in this business for over 10 years. What are some of the big lessons that you've had since either starting in the small bands or being sidemen in bigger bands and then branching into your own solo stuff? I don't know if you want to tell like early 2020 version of yourself, like this is what you need to know, but what would you say are some of the things you've gleaned over this decade plus of being in the music industry?
Well, in my early 20s, I mostly just learned from the many thousands of mistakes that I made over and over again. I would say, later, like in more kind of recent years, I've been able to probably learn more good lessons. That one of the best things I heard was from Dwight, and he can't really go, if he goes out dressed as Dwight Yoakam, he's going to have people coming up to him just on the street and just wanting to take a picture or wanting to say hello. And, he, after the show, he goes back to his bus and hangs out on the bus, and there'll be people outside the bus, like knocking on the bus. And it was happening one night, and I made some kind of crack about it, about, I don't know, how do you do it, or something kind of callous like that. And Dwight just looked at me and goes, buddy, he goes, man, he goes, you're really in trouble when they stop doing it. and I was like, that's, yeah. And I will never forget that. And it's definitely, I just thought that was a good lesson, especially for me kind of going forward. Because when you're a side guy, you don't even think about that stuff. It's not your problem. It's not your name out on the, on the marquee or whatever. So it's kind of like, that was a great lesson that I took from him. I mean, it was all these gigs, with Chris or with Dwight, everything I've ever done, you take something with you. And there's just always, I work with this guy, Mike Stinson. Do you guys are you guys hip to Mike Stinson up there in Arlington?
The name rings a bell, but I honestly am not that familiar with his stuff.
He's great. He was in LA for a long time, and he's been in Houston now for 7 or 8 years. Great songwriter, great friend, and he's a drummer as well. So I met him playing bass in his band, and in recent years he's come out and played drums for me. He wrote a song called Late Great Golden State, which was cut by Dwight, and he's a really good songwriter and has a cool pedigree and everything. But I've learned a lot from him, just about how to go do my thing, to going and playing shows and touring, doing band tours and stuff like that. Picked up a lot of just practical stuff from him. And, in addition to, I cover his songs and everything like that. One thing I kind of learned from him is how to talk to the audience in between songs. It sounds like maybe it would come naturally, but it has not come naturally to me. Again, it just being a sideman forever is like, you don't think about that. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
No, there's definitely an art to talking to the audience like that. Like you'll listen to some, like I was listening to one of my favorite live albums of all time is there's that triple disc that Springsteen did from like 75 to 85. And he's like the master of like talking to the crowd. And one of the all-time great, like, monologues he gives is, like, 1975 Springsteen playing Growing Up. And he's still, like, a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And he does this great moment where he's, like, he plays the first 2 verses and fucking blisters through it. And then he gets to, like, a part where they kind of stops. And he's like, I think my parents are here tonight in the audience. And, like, people start clapping. And he tells this great story about how his dad hated him playing guitar. And it was never the Fender guitar. It was never Gibson guitar. It was always the goddamn guitar. And he would he would smoke him out of his room and he'd play guitar on the roof. And then he's like, my mom would, and the great thing is like the band's like quietly kind of like playing in the background, Roy Bittan's on the keyboards or whatever. And then he has the best line I've ever heard is he speaks to his mom and dad in the audience and he goes, one of you wanted an author. The other one wanted a lawyer. Well, tonight you're going to have to settle for rock and roll. And the whole band just fucking crashes back in. And it's like the greatest. I remember I was listening with my dad in the car because he was raised in Jersey, but not born in Jersey. But, Springsteen is like their saint. And he turned to me and he's like, how fucking great is that? That's the boss right there.
That's a great record, man. He's really good at it. He's really good at it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's one thing about Springsteen, man. People think they can like do that kind of shit. People can't do what he does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to be able to, he musically he's great. Songwriter, musically everything he's great. But he's also like he's going like super deep with his personal shit.
Sure. Like
in the middle of the song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like in that example you just gave, like the band will break it down. And he'll tell this long, like, super personal story. And then at the end, everyone, like, goes nuts and, like, cheers.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is, like a super hard thing to try and do. That's amazing. It's just amazing.
One of the things I think it's kind of like a theme that we've been talking about with, like, Tom Petty or Springsteen or anybody that we really care about as like musicians or we're fans of, is like the best ones are the ones that never fake it, and they're super honest. And like Springsteen's one of those guys. I mean, I've been listening to him since I was 3 years old, but like he's one of those guys where I've seen shows where like he tells the audience to stop clapping along. Like they'll be clapping along to a song, and he's like, "This isn't that song. Like, you don't clap along to this song."
Well, also how he does like "Born in the USA."
Well,
now.
"Born in the USA," like me and and Chris here on the show, we saw him when they did the Concert for Valor.
Also with Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl was there. He fucking killed it. But like,
oh yeah.
But like Springsteen's there and he's playing "Born in the USA," and like I think obviously it had to be because he's playing the 80s synth kind of like 1984, like it's the style of the times. "Born in the USA" being like his highest selling record and stuff, but like when you strip that down, you take away the synths, you take away the booming drums, and he makes it like a bluegrass folk song. And like you realize how like you're saying he's putting so many personal things in there. Petty does the same thing, and I think that's like it. Anytime artist is really truthful and like I said, the big thing is like they don't fake it, and people see that like and they'll hear it, and like and that's what makes the Tom Pettys of the world and the Springsteens of the world and everything is they don't. And I think too with like Petty that I really love is he only had one era. Like he there's not like you listen to Tom Petty's first album and his last album and it's Tom Petty. He's like, oh, this is his, this is his
closest it got
dance pop phase, or and there's nothing wrong with that. But
it got close with Southern accents. Remember, "Don't Come Around Here No More" kind of had the weird Eurythmics sound.
That's true, but like there's,
I don't think he was too precious. I don't think he was too precious about it. Yeah. But I think in the end you're still right though, because I think in the end when you look back on everything, even though there's 80s synthesizers or there are little things that like kind of date it in some way sonically. It all is just, it's all him.
Yeah.
It's a very like cohesive catalog, I think.
Are you? And at one,
I don't think he was too precious. I don't think he was too precious about it. I think some of the guys in his band were more precious about quote unquote like keeping it authentic than he was.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I think he and Mike Campbell were way more open to what was happening on the radio, like right at that moment. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why Stan,
which is also that's in the Stones. The Stones have that too with Nick and Keith. Like Nick is the one who's like, interested in what's happening like right then and what is current and what is happening. And Keith does not care. Keith has like this record collection that he's had since the '60s, and he still listens to those records and he loves them.
Yeah. And
it's just a different kind of a thing. And I think a lot of bands have that. Robert Plant is a guy who'll go to Amoeba Records and buy like a whole shitload of like all the newest shit. He'll go buy 50 CDs of all the like newest, like craziest shit from KCRW. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've heard that great story where like Elton John said he buys like 3 copies of each album, and they're like, just put it on your iPod. He's like, no, I'll just buy the CD. Obviously he can do it because he's fucking a gazillionaire. But like, yeah, like, he's
got that Kingsman 2 money.
Oh yeah, the Kingsman 2 money's rolling in. But like, I think there's, again, there's something to be said about like keeping your finger on the pulse. But I think the thing that, that I like about Petty is like kind of like you were saying too, like he's not super concerned about the style of like the time of it. But like you said, at the same time, he also didn't give a shit what anyone thought. You know what I mean? So like I don't know, he was aware of it, but like at the same time he wasn't worried about necessarily getting that sound out. Like it was Tom Petty. That's what he was. That's what he wanted to have. And like you're saying,
I'm me.
Yeah, yeah. And he wasn't dictated by.
I'm me. I'm here. I got some shit I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna couch it in this amazing pop song.
Yeah.
And he just did it over and over again, and it's it is. It's like you can't really say it enough. It's just a great catalog.
Yeah.
If there's anything that doing any of those tribute shows made me think about, it was just like, these songs. If you just do it the way it is on the record, it's gonna come together so smoothly because it's just these songs like kind of play themselves. You don't really have to mess with them.
Yeah. It's
pretty cool.
Well, I love on that documentary, like the best thing I can think of with like Petty is the "Don't bore us, get to the chorus," line where like
Oh, I love that.
It's just,
I think about that all the time.
yeah.
I think about it in the studio all the time. You know what I mean? And I don't know especially if I'm working for someone else, I won't mention it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But it crosses my mind a lot because I think it's just, you know, like anything, it probably shouldn't be a dogma, but it's like, it's something that you should always think about when you're writing a song and recording a song. I think, if you're in the pop world, even a little bit. It's funny though. There's a couple of his songs where he, there's quite a bit of verse singing and going around before there's a chorus, especially like in later times. You know what I mean? There's some of that, but he's so cool. He makes even that work. Even when he goes against his own advice, he makes it work. He makes it cool.
He's like, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, no, I did say that, but now I'm doing the opposite of that.
Here's a 20-minute song with no chorus. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Classic.
But he's.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, you were mentioning like you kind of were doing kind of a Nashville approach with your songwriting these days. So I have to ask because it's kind of a big deal with the Nashville sound. Are you more of a rhythm guy or a melody guy? Because I feel like those are all rhythm guys out there.
Well, it's just they're right. A lot of those guys, though, and you're right. You're 100% right. Okay, especially just with the rhythm thing. I think you're right because they're writing to like they have like a target in mind of like what they're trying to write for. And there's these certain dance grooves at a certain beat, BPM, beats per minute, that they are like shooting for. I mean, they're trying to like write for that, I think. So, I mean, that's,
give them that four on the floor.
And the thing is I really don't want this to come across as like a denigrating comment, because I think that what they do is, I think it's very hard. I think it's very hard to write to a pitch sheet and have it be a hit song. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially if you're doing it with a stranger or trying to do it in 3 hours or something like that. So it's like it's a hard thing to do, and I don't really know how to write like that. That's kind of why I'm doing this. Is I'm trying to get a kind of a sense of it, of doing more co-writes just with other professional songwriters. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And seeing what you can make come out of it, because the way I've written in over the last 10 years of my life is it's like I don't even know. I don't even know, like, just kind of have something that I want to say or something that I think is good, and the best stuff is written really fast. You know what I mean?
Very stream of consciousness.
And so I don't have like I need to write a song with this tempo or with this groove. Mm-hmm. It'll just kind of, again, the best stuff is just kind of like just comes,
Yeah, just kind of shoot from the hip.
So, yeah, he just, at least that's been, for me, like the songs that I will play from those records every night are the ones that were written, pretty quickly and without a lot of thought about what I was doing. So it's writing the other way, I don't have anything against it, and I'm doing more of it. But it's weird. It's definitely a foreign thing for me, because it's just a new way of thinking. You know what I mean?
Sure. New muscles creatively and everything. So, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, Brian, something we ask everybody that comes on the show, and it can be in music, it can be Blade Runner 2. We had an interview earlier. He hadn't seen Blade Runner 2, and I realized that I almost spoiled all that movie. Anyway, what are you currently geeking out over?
Oh, currently geeking out over. That's a great question. I've been listening to a couple of good records. There's a band here in LA that I really like called Seven Horse. And it's two of the guys that were in a band called Dada in the 90s. And they have this duo that's like a rock and roll duo thing. pretty kind of like heavy. And I really like those guys. There's a guy out of Texas called Jesse Dayton that I really like, and of course there's a upcoming record from Mike Stinson that I mentioned earlier. It's not out yet, but the songs that they're doing are some of the best songs that Mike's ever written, and I'm really excited for that to be a CD that I can play in the car all the time.
Anything outside of the music world that you're really vibing on these days?
Very little. I really liked HBO original programming. I geek out over like the Deuce, fucking Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh yeah, Curb. I've been catching up on
That's
Curb.
the kind of stuff that I geek out over.
Did you speaking of HBO, I just watched the Spielberg documentary they just did. Have you checked that out?
I haven't yet. I heard it was really good. I haven't been able to check that out yet.
I mean,
I mostly am still geeking out over Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly an inordinate amount of my time.
Yeah.
But it's like a stale answer for this question. I'm trying to think of something that is like hip and cool.
I mean, Jake and I have like analyzed all the Beatles albums like twice.
Yeah.
Like on this program.
Yeah. Backwards and forwards, literally.
Track by track. What do you think about Revolution 9?
Yeah.
Jake?
Yeah. Well, no. Speaking of like the kind of the
you guys got to read. You guys have probably read that Revolution in the Head, the track by track Beatles breakdown book, where he just talks about each song and like what was happening when they recorded it. And
I have
that's a good one.
I have one book I think just called Beatles songs. It's like super, but it's like a similar thing where like they break down every song and like
Rolling Stone does it like almost every other year.
Yeah, I had this really cool thing. It's like a studio log they put together where it's like all the studio like notes. So like at what time they were overdubbing "Hey Bulldog" or whatever. Like it's really cool.
I love that piano riff.
Yeah, but that's a band that we have surgically taken apart and put back together multiple times.
We have Frankenstein the shit out of the Beatles.
No, I was going to say
I love it.
Speaking of the Beatles and kind of the 50s thing, there was a thing that this is a couple years back now that came to the kind of the I guess the DC type area. But it was Abbey Road on the River. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's like this like traveling Beatles like festival. And what they do like the first year I went, I met Pete Best, and that was like wild. He had the strongest handshake of all time. And it was kind of cool because he's telling all these stories, that people have never heard of. He'd be like, oh yeah, and then John. I'm like, oh shit, he meant John Lennon, But like, there's this really cool thing though. Like there was a band, I think it was my second year, but they have a big kind of like headlining thing. And the first year I went was there's this guy, I can't remember his name, which is terrible. But he had like I think it was a quartet, but one of the guys was sick. But what they did is they played a medley of every Beatles song ever recorded. It was a 2.5-hour show. And he played anywhere from 5 seconds to 1 minute of like every Beatles song.
Was the 5 seconds Revolution 9?
I think for Revolution 9, he just like screamed into the microphone and like banged on stuff. I don't know. But like
number 9.
Yeah, number 9. But I mean, he would do things where like even like the little like studio jargon in between. Like he would like do that or whatever. It was it was amazing. And the keyboard player was sick, so he was running back and forth doing both. And then the second year, the Love album was, I think, still fairly new that they had put together.
Came out in 2008.
Yeah. Oh, so this is, I mean, it's a couple years after the fact. But what they did is they have bands playing all throughout the day, and so, like they have this one band called Abbey Road Live that plays Abbey Road Live. But it's amazing because when you hear like "I Want You, She's So Heavy" live. Like and how absolutely heavy that song is, and they cut it off just like on the record.
Oh yeah.
But like they would get all the bands together, like the best of the bands, and they played the Love album live. Like so, like they put all the songs together.
It was like the Avengers of the Beatles.
It was the Avengers of the Beatles.
So you got Sgt. Pepper era, like John.
Yeah.
You got like Abbey Road era, like George.
But one of the things they did that was really cool. Speaking of the 50s stuff, there was this band from Brazil that was called Jukebox. They didn't play any Beatles songs, but they played all the songs the Beatles were inspired by.
All the skiffle bands.
And hearing that stuff live, that's the greatest sound in the world. Like the 50s stuff, like hearing that live, the piano, the drums, the guitar, all of that together. Like you can't help it. Everyone was like dancing their ass off. Like that is there's something to be said still. I mean, forever and ever for that kind of 50s sound, and especially being able to hear it like in a live setting.
Yeah, no, it's like people love it. That's all you can say. People love it everywhere you go.
Is that what keeps you coming back for? Is it both nostalgia and just that kind of raw quality that keeps you coming back for more Buddy Holly?
I mean, well, with the Beatles and with Buddy Holly, the big thing that keeps me coming back over and over again is they just have great songs. They really have great songs, and they did everything else really well too. But the way that the music can endure is because of the songwriting, the strength of the writing itself. Mm. And so, the Lennon-McCartney catalog is currently probably the most, valuable commodity in the entire music industry. And it's just really, and it's just because they have 250 songs or whatever it is that are just great. Like most of those songs are like some of the best songs that anyone ever wrote, for the pop world. And so it's like they have this tremendous value, and that's the reason why. We talk about Tom Petty, and we talk about Buddy Holly, and, we talked a little bit about Social Distortion, Mike Ness, and it's like the reason why these guys endure and have the careers that they have is on the strength of their writing. They do the other stuff well, too, but, Dave Grohl, everyone we've talked about, it's a lot of it is really in the strength of the writing.
And that's why 20 years later... That's why 20 years later, nobody talks about Milli Vanilli.
Yeah. If you want to be like a performer like that, like be a performer, you're not going to write the stuff. You're just going to go sing it and play it. Like you have to be really good. You have to be Madonna or Elvis or someone like that, where they're not necessarily like writing the stuff, but they can damn sure go out and sell it.
Yeah.
Like you better be able to really do it, and that's why those people are who they are,
Totally. Well, Brian, what can we expect in the what can we expect in the future from you? You had mentioned you had just co-written Chris Shiflett's solo debut, but yeah, what can we expect from you yourself?
I'm working on a third record right now, so I'm kind of into the thick of it with that project, and playing a lot of shows in the Southwest, Southern California area. And you never know what's going to happen in terms of the collaboration stuff. I'm hoping to do more production work, and like I was talking about, just more of the co-writing and songwriting, and you never quite know what's going to happen next with that, but I know there'll be something. The winter time is always really good for making records, so I'm sure there'll be something going on this winter.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, man. I think that because it's been a couple of years since Sugarland, and I know those are all self-released, and you had done the Christmas singles the year before that. So yeah, we're definitely looking to. If any tease on the sound of the third record.
Man, it's pretty cool. There's a guy, Luke Adams, here in LA, and he's been playing drums for me for a few years, and he's producing this record. He's doing a great job. I really like working with him. Music, sonically, I just think it's gonna get weirder. That's what I would say. It's like my sound, but it's definitely there's some weird stuff going on. And like trying to, I'm like a rock and roll guitar player and a singer, and I write a lot of 3-chord songs that are, 3 minutes long and stuff like that. And so just trying to make those sound a way that hasn't been done before. That's the goal.
Right on, man. Well, again, you can check out Brian's stuff at brianwhelanmusic.com. Latest tour dates. You can get albums, including signed albums, right off that website. Brian, thanks again for coming on. Yeah, man. Get that signature. Get that Brian Whelan, John Hancock.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for coming on. That was a great talk.
Yeah, lots of fun.
Yeah. We usually have like books. We usually do, we've had some TV personalities on here and everything. But music makes the world go round, man. It's always good getting a musician on the show. And again, we dig his stuff. We dig his sound. So we wholeheartedly endorse the music of Brian Whelan. You guys get into anything new?
Oh boy.
Nothing at
Chris,
all.
what did we do?
Did we do anything?
I think we did.
Well, okay. This episode goes up
do.
This episode goes up the week of Thanksgiving. Is there anything you're particularly thankful for? No. Also, no.
Taylor Swift's new album.
Oh, there you go. Taylor Swift put out a new album this week. Why don't you talk about how much you love that?
It's cool. It's a lot more electronic based, a lot more aggressive. Throwing disses left and right. No, there's this. I don't know the album that well yet.
Diss track after diss track.
Yeah. I did buy it at 12:01 when it came out, but there's a song called "Getaway Car" on it. It's really fucking cool. And a lot of vocoder stuff on it. And I wish he would team up with Daft Punk or or some. That'd be cool. I was actually kind of hoping that there was going to be a surprise collab with her and Kanye West on it. Like, fuck you, fuck everybody, fuck off. But no, it didn't happen. She very much goes after Kanye and Kim Kardashian.
Oh wow.
Which is good for her.
She's going after everybody.
And we'll get a good Kanye album out of it.
Even old Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's dead. No, it's cool. I mean, it's very 1989 is like, synth pop at its finest. It's so fucking wonderful and fun. There's no, again, I don't know the album like, in and out yet, but like this is a much, I don't know, you would say darker, but it is darker, She is
it's an angrier album.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean she's very much in control. Like anger seems to have like a connotation that it's like out of control. Like she's very in control in this. It's the most adult thing she's done, not just because she's older, but I mean she's much more adult themes on it. There's a song "Dress" that a lot of people are talking about. That's got some very, kind of, I guess, risque for Taylor Swift lyrics. But look, I think she makes really interesting music. I think her evolution is insane. Talk about having like, Brian Whelan on here, like, with country and more alt rock and like kind of how he's evolved over time. Like Taylor Swift started off as like Nashville country girl, and now she's making like
pop records.
Then she made a fucking synth pop album that like I look. I don't know how you you have to like if you listen to 1989. I mean that is just a perfect encapsulation of like great fun pop music. You know what I mean? Catchy. And then, like I said, this is such like kind of like, I don't want to say the anti-1989 because I still think it's good. But again, it's dealing with much more kind of harsher things. I mean, I was kind of bummed because like when Look What You Made Me Do came out, I thought that was going to be kind of the sonic mission statement of the album, like weird, like really weird, and kind of go out there and not sounding like Taylor Swift. But it's still, Look What You Made Me Do, from what I've heard, is like definitely the most kind of out there in terms of new sound. She kind of reverts back to like there are some tracks that sound like they could be 1989 spin-offs, which is a good thing because I think that album's fucking really good. But no, it's growing on me. Like I said, I have not given it multiple listens. Like an album that has grown on me a lot since I first listened to it and was kind of like, it's okay, is the new Weezer album. Speaking of music stuff, Pacific Daydream.
The Weezes.
The Weezes, the Friendly Neighborhood Weezes. I really like that a lot. There's a song called Sweet Mary on it that fucking absolutely blows my mind. Like the past couple Weezer albums has been some of the best stuff they put out in years. And
better than Pinkerton?
No.
Well, Rivers says as much, like in the line, kind of like as much in Back to the Shack.
Yeah, Back to the Shack. Yeah, he basically apologizes because the thing is, like, they were trying to be a different band. And you want Weezer to be Weezer. Like, God help us. If there's any band you want to be that band that brings just this joy. But also they focus on, I saw someone, I guess, kind of critique or complaint about Pacific Daydream that album focuses on the moment in a relationship and not the relationship itself. But I found that to be really interesting on the album. Like it's focusing, and Sweet Mary is one where there's darker stuff on this. Now the original, I guess, idea for this album was to be called the Black Album. They have the Blue Album, they have the Green Album, they have the Red Album, and they have the White Album. I guess Rivers had spoke something about like there's a song on, I think it's called Beach Boys, which is very kind of Beach Boys inspired sonically and musically, and how many times can I say sonically? And the original idea, I think, was to make an album called the Black Album, which was like Evil Beach Boys. And when people heard about that, they were like, look, Pacific Daydream is cool, but where the fuck is that Black Album? And I hope that Rivers is keeping that close to the chest and they do something like that, because I think that'd be really cool. Because they still, like, Rivers still sounds just as good. His vocals are still angelic as fuck. They can bring the crunch, they can bring the heaviness. And like I said, there's obviously other songs than Sweet Mary, but like Sweet Mary has just this like wonderfully angelic moment. The lyric is what the fuck's the lyric? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's just "Who is she?" And in the background vocals are, my heart is stolen, which I think is such a great line. Yeah. I dig the Wheeze. I dig the Taylor Swift. Also, speaking of music again, there's an album I found called Weapons of Thrash Destruction by Terrifier. That's a Canadian thrash metal band. This album fucking came out January of 2017, this year, and sounds like it came out in 1986, which is like the highest compliment I can pay for a thrash metal band. It is one of the best metal albums I've heard in a long, long time. Like, just brutal, hyperkinetic thrash metal with a sense of humor to it and a Total Recall sample. They fucking rule. I mean, from the opening riff, just the alternate picking, double kick, and the air raid siren scream, I was like, yeah, I'm in. And it's got like the ridiculously drawn front cover. Those guys fucking are killing it right now. And it's great because like thrash metal, there's also a band called Havoc that released an album called Conformicide that's really, really good.
Do they spell Havoc with a C or a K?
K. And their album covers are fucking awesome.
But do they spell it with a Y like Josh does?
Oh, Havok?
Havok.
I love it.
No, so thrash metal is alive and well in very, very incapable hands right now.
So you're thankful for thrash metal and Taylor Swift.
And Weezer. Yes.
I was gonna say, while you were talking about Taylor Swift, I thought it was funny that before we started recording, you were talking about how you wanted to do that metal music centric podcast with your buddy.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, perfect. This is the content that you'd be getting. Reviewing,
yes, you'd be getting me
reviewing
talking about
Taylor Swift's new album.
Yeah, Taylor Swift's new album, which is a pretty good metal album. I'm hoping she goes through like a fucking like Sam was saying, like an angry ass phase.
Yeah,
like she's very much like
she puts out a Black Album.
She's like look, I had my couple months off. I sat and stewed about what was going on in the world, and I released this album. And she kind of like makes fun of herself in the album too, which is cool. I think it's good. I think it'll grow on me a lot more. Like I said, I think it's a solid album. But if I had to pick a favorite track, it'd definitely be Getaway Car. Really cool fucking song by Tay.
I saw Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh! Believer. Remember they used that song in the fucking... I guess it kind of makes sense, but like I remember they played that trail. I like that song too by the imaginary band, Imagine Dragons. Imagine Dragons. Yeah. Are we real?
Or are we dancing?
I remember I had not listened to the Killers album yet, which
the Killers album's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But I remember seeing the trailer for Murder on the Orient Express, and they had the dum, 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 like that song, and I was like,
he walks through the jungle.
Yeah. Then he's got the mustache on. I remember I turned to Sam, and I was like, I know Sam's probably read this book before. And I was like, Sam, is that like fucking stated, like described as that kind of mustache? And Sam was like, he has a mustache.
He has a mustache, but it's just like it's like waxed like black.
But I remember like when I first
like a fucking like
walrus.
Yeah, when I first saw the trailer and it's like believer, and like it zooms out and he's like, my name is and I'm probably the world's greatest hit. I was like, fuck off. I like everyone involved in the cast. I'm glad you're making money, but fuck off.
Well,
fuck you.
So I've read the Murder on the Orient Express book. I haven't read any of the other Hercule Poirot books.
Oh, he's got multiple books.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. But
sorry.
To my understanding, what was the author's name?
Agatha Christie.
Agatha Christie. To my understanding, Agatha Christie wrote it as kind of a parody of the detective genre, and supposedly hates the character, but like would hate write it. Just be like, fine, I need a fucking $20. Yeah, because this is back at the turn of the century. $20 was a lot of money.
Yo, you got $20?
Oh, you must be rich.
Yes, sir. I do have $20, and I like to buy this hotel. Here's your $15 back, sir.
I would like 2 television sets.
Yeah.
And a second bathroom with shower. But so the movie's good. I really enjoyed myself.
So you're thankful for the murder on the Orient Express.
Sure, yeah.
And the song "Believer" by Imagine Dragons.
Sure.
I
Oddly
dare
enough,
you to imagine them.
oddly enough, not in the movie. Sorry. Much like Atomic Blonde not having any Kanye songs.
They can't afford that.
They can afford fucking Blue Monday, but they can't afford fucking.
That's why they couldn't afford Kanye, because they spent so much money on the Blue Monday.
I am a god.
But yeah, it was fun.
Now
Kenneth
comes
Branagh.
the time. Oh yes,
Does
I like
a
Kenneth.
good
I like
job.
Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
Now comes the time, Sam. What are you thankful for?
Oh, put you in the spotlight.
Other than Sugarland by Brian Whelan.
Oh,
That's a good record, man. Especially this time of the year. Like autumn is a good time to play country and more honky tonk stuff. Other stuff, we as a bit of a tease, we have our first Marvel interview coming out. Official Marvel Comics interview coming out next week. We've had Marvel creators on before, but now
Now they're pitching Marvel stuff.
Now Marvel is coming to us. Fucking wild, right? So yeah. So keep an eye. I'm very thankful for that.
yeah. It's a good interview too.
Yeah, I'm thankful that here we are, over 3 years, we're still doing this shit.
That's right.
Jesus
Ugh.
Christ.
How have I not killed you both yet?
Yeah, followed by yourself.
Believer.
Last episode's just going to be a faint gunshot in the background, and then people are going to be like, but wait, how do you upload it?
It's gonna end just like the Dream Theater album.
Yeah.
Sure.
Scenes from a Memory Part 2.
Open your eyes, Nicholas.
And then 6 degrees of inner turbulence starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 degrees.
Just
of
like that.
Inner turbulence.
Yes, I said.
I thought you said no turbulence.
I heard no turbulence.
I was like, there's plenty of turbulence.
No. The glass prison? Jesus.
Yeah. Solitary shell?
That's the one. That's like the slowest part of that album.
That was the one.
That's why it's turbulent, because
I guess, yeah. Okay.
Because it throws you off.
If we're going by that, then the acoustic guitars are very turbulent.
Yeah.
Very jarring after the Pantera-inspired glass prison.
Yeah.
What a fucking
REO
good album.
Speedwagon, huh, guys?
Yeah. What was the what's the Castlevania song? Goodnight Mother's Kiss or Goodnight Kiss?
Castlevania song.
Well, it has the guitar riff that sounds like it's at a Symphony of the Night.
How does it go?
Like the guitar riff in Symphony of the
How does
Night.
the fucking riff in Symphony of the Night goes? I don't know. That.
In parentheses, I don't know how Symphony of the Night goes.
Yeah, bow, wow, and it's like
Bow wow wow.
It's like power. It's
Bow, wow,
it's power
bow,
metal.
bow,
Oh, then it's definitely
wow,
not that
bow,
one.
bow, wow.
Because that one's about the death of a child.
I know, but
There's
the-
no
Just
power.
like
There's no
Symphony of the Night.
There's no rock and roll in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Symphony of the Night's about the death of a mother. Spoilers for a 20-year-old game.
Yeah. But
I beat that game, by the way.
Oh,
I'm
did you?
I'm thankful for Symphony of the Night. I
Good.
beat that game
There you
once.
go. There you
Once a year.
Good.
Once a year, I beat Symphony of the Night.
Good.
It's my favorite. It's between that and Super 4. Honestly, I don't know if it's because we talked to Becky Cloonan about it. Maybe it's Symphony of the Night now. Maybe. Because she would know.
she would.
She would.
Yeah.
She would know what your favorite game is.
Thanks, Beck.
Her Punisher run just ended.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sad to see it go.
Yeah.
And Matt Horick
Yes.
on Artist Studios towards the end there,
Yeah.
or for a while.
she's got some new stuff coming in the can.
Yeah, but it was a bummer because I enjoyed it. They seem to have a lot of fun with the Punisher book,
Yeah.
and like that last cover where he's like James Bond Punisher and he has the fucking cufflinks that are little
Still
death's head
skulls.
skulls. So good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd wear the shit out of
We
those.
need to get Becky back on the show.
Oh hell yeah.
Speaking of comic books, if you guys are done with Becky Cloonan, because I'm going to jump to something else.
We never done.
Yeah.
That's fine. I am thankful for /Resurrection.
Oh.
I am a big / fan, and even though unfortunately
I'll talk to
Tim Seeley can't be involved directly with it because of his DC stuff right now.
Exclusive contract.
Yeah, which that's fine. Good for him. Is it Nightwing that he's on?
He just left Nightwing. Now he does Green Lantern.
Oh, well, good for him. I love
brightest
Green
day in blackest night. No evil shall escape my sight.
The
Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's like, you can't cut off the fucking Green Lantern oath.
we need to get
I'm a
Tim,
Red Lantern.
We need to get Tim
Oh,
back on the
fuck
show
it,
too.
you and
See
your-
the tattoo?
Fuck you and the
See
red
the
lanterns.
Red lantern
yeah,
over
fuck
there?
you and your Red Lantern Corps. Fuck you.
That's my secret, Jake.
I'm always
angry.
Red Lantern Corps.
But
I'm always fuck you.
but
I'm always.
but the people to go back, the people that are running Hackslash right now are doing a very good job. I'm reading both Hackslash and Vampirella and Hackslash Resurrection, which at the time of recording, unless I missed whatever came out today, there's 2 issues of Vampirella and 1 of Resurrection, and they're both off to a good start.
There's a Kiss Vampirella comic.
Ooh.
Have you read any of the omnibus books that I got you, along with Rock Candy Mountain or Nailbiter?
I haven't read any of the ones that you had given to me, but I had a couple years ago. I had read everything that I could find of Hackslash up until that point. So I'm assuming that I at one point have read most of what you've been able to get procure for me.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. But yeah, so happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners out in the real world, not the geek out world. Thanks to Brian for coming
Yeah,
on.
seriously.
That was a good
that
hang.
was fun.
I'd love to have him.
Shaking it up a bit.
Yeah. Always good to get a musician on. We've sent out, maybe watch the space because we might have some other musicians coming on the show. That's all I'm going to say, because I'm probably jinxing myself.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's plenty of wood you can knock on it.
Plenty. But, yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, and this has been another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
Fried chicken.
Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual Catching Up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.